We're back with another free hit and best wildcard team hybrid, so both of those chips will be covered in this video. I'll be honest, I don't think this is the best week to necessarily play the wildcard, but that is team dependent, and for some people it actually might apply and it would be the best decision to actually play that chip. The same goes for the bench boost and the triple captain, and both of those chips I discuss in detail in my team selection video, so check that out, as well as the transfer tips video which I uploaded recently. But let's just get straight into this. We're going to start with the best free hit team, since that's going to be a bit more popular than the wildcard this week. And then at the very end, I'll show you, in my opinion, the best wildcard team. And feel free to offer your suggestions down in the comment section below. For the free hit, I would just prioritize one goalkeeper, and in this case it would be Aaron Ramsdale, with Foster being on the bench, and he could do just as well, or maybe at least do pretty decent, but Ramsdale is the one you want to start here, and I think he's probably the best goalkeeper from now until the end of the season. The only problem really with the Arsenal goalkeeper is that blank in 27, but other than that, some very good fixtures for a long period of time, and also this double in 26, and one of the best set of doubles for me in Brentford and Wolves. Wolves are a tricky, cookie, but I think Brentford should be pretty decent, but you never know. And I think Arsenal have only won 2 league games out of 11 against Brentford, so that should still be a bit more tricky than we think. But at the same time, I think Ramsdale, with Arsenal's defensive improvement this season, they've been pretty solid. I think he is the standout, and he can get the bonus and save points for sure. So Ramsdale for me has to be in this best free hit team, and the same could arguably be said about the best wildcard team. We're actually evolving. There's no Cancelo in this best free hit team, although maybe the same can't be said later on. But right now, Trent is the only one who pretty much features in every single one of these videos. I think he's a no-brainer, and you could arguably captain him even over Salah because he's less likely to be rotated. I would still go for Salah, as I'll talk about later, but Trent has to be in this best free hit team. The same goes for the wild card, so don't skip him, even if it's a choice of Robertson or Trent. Robertson is more of a differential, but I would still go for Trent every day of the week, despite Robertson's assist against Inter Milan. But I would double up on Liverpool's defence, especially with the news that Jota could be missing out against Norwich, and it's going to be a race against time for Jota to be fit for the Carabao Cup final, and that will also include the second game in 26 against Leeds. So I think I would prioritise a triple up in Liverpool, but a double up in their defence, and then with Salah, of course, he's always going to be in it, so no spoilers there. And then I've gone for Tierney. I would actually double up on Arsenal's defence here because of those good fixtures in 26. Only on a free hit though, because if you're wildcarding, and I'll talk about that later on of course, it's going to be a bit difficult if you have a triple up in Liverpool and then you've got maybe 2 or 3 Arsenal players, because you will then be forced into a free hit in 27, which is not necessarily the worst thing, but you want to leave your options open if possible. But I've gone for Robertson, Trent and Tierney. I would definitely start these 3. And actually, I would probably go for a back 4 this week, and I would go for Aït-Nouri. If you want another defender from another team, you could consider Davis or any of these Spurs options around 4.5 million. Mitchell would be on the bench here, but I would start with 4 at the back. So the first 4 you see there, Aït-Nouri plays on one of the best defences in the league this season. Wolves have conceded fewer than Liverpool and every single team except for Manchester City, so I think they're worth inclusion despite a pretty tough set of Double Gameweek 26 fixtures, at least from a defensive point of view. So I think this team looks pretty good, and once again, if you have any suggestions or alternatives, then let me know down in the comment section below. Quite a lot of changes in the midfield as well. Salah is the only constant, but Saka is in here, and he's someone I haven't really included in these teams too much, but he's going to be hot property right now, especially with Jota's injury, and it looks like he could miss both of those Double Gameweek 26 fixtures, and I'm actually considering taking an additional hit, so we're talking about a -12 here to move Jota on for Bukayo Saka. That's something I'm yet to decide. I'm quite happy with my team anyway, and you can check out the status in my team selection video, but I think Saka is looking really good. Yes, he might not be the most consistent in terms of goal output, but this season he has stepped it up, and very balanced between goals and assists. I've talked about this in my transfer tips video, and his stats are pretty decent. They're quite sustainable, and I think, I wouldn't captain him or anything, but from Arsenal, the only attacker I'd be really keen on right now is Saka. Martinelli's going to be missing out one of those games through that suspension and red card he got against Wolves. Smith Rowe might play one, but then be benched when Martinelli comes back. Lacazette's also decent if you want an option up front. And then Ramsey is just there as your bench player. He's got a single game week where he could do very well against Watford. But here I would be starting Heung-min Son, Salah, Saka and Jarrod Bowen, despite the fact that Bowen only has a single game week at home to Newcastle, who have improved. I think Bowen, he's that good right now, and he's probably better than most of these double game week players that I would go for Bowen. But you don't have to. You could go for Cornet or maybe Rafinha. There are still quite a few options at your disposal, but just a personal point of view, I would go for Bowen. The form he's in is incredible, and right now he's actually single-handedly carrying West Ham to that 4th spot, or at least challenging for it. So I think Bowen is a class player, he's doing very well, and with the form he's in, you just have to include him in my opinion. Son, I know Spurs have been very poor, so kind of the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of Spurs and West Ham, but Son is so consistent, and we spoke about this as well at length. He's only blanked once since game week 13 when he's been available, so for me, he's so consistent, he's clinical, he doesn't need too many chances to score. He plays City, so it doesn't really feel like a double game week for the South Korean, but at the same time, he's got a good record against the Citizens and also against the Clarets, the 2 opponents in game week 26. So I wouldn't overthink it there. If you're looking for maybe some more single game week players, because you can do that even on a free hit, then Bruno Fernandes against Leeds looks very enticing as well, and that's coming from someone who saw both of their United attackers ahead of game week 26 for multiple hits very early on this week. But I would go for Heung-min Son, and I think this is a pretty balanced midfield. Once again, it'd be a back 4 and also 4 in midfield with Ramsey and Mitchell going to the bench. On a free hit, I would go for Harry Kane. The same can't be said on a wildcard, but I would take advantage and go for a double up in Spurs attack despite some pretty mixed fixtures in double game week 26. The main conflict is in the second striker position, so it's between Edouard, workhorse, who it looks like he could be available as soon as that Brighton fixture, so he could play in both of these double game week 26 games, and also maybe you could go for Dennis or Joshua King, and Dennis would be my preference out of those two. And there's also Broja and a few other single game weekers like Malpai who could also do very well. And there's Jimenez and Lacazette. If you want to go for them, I think they're also pretty decent. But my preference in Arsenal would be Tierney, Ramsdale and Saka. And from Wolves, I would rather go for their defenders. But Jimenez, if he had to pick a Wolves attacker, it would definitely be the Mexican. And also, he's still pretty good despite my reservations about him that I illustrated in my transfer tips video. But it's between any of those strikers I said for that second spot. But looking at my budget, I have 105.5 million available, and this team would leave me with exactly nothing. So this team costs 105.5 million. Gelhardt would be on the bench alongside Ramsey and Mitchell, with Gelhardt being third on the bench, and then it's between, Mitchell and Ramsey for that first spot there. Foster would also be on the bench, of course. But yes, between any of those strikers, if you have more money at your disposal, then you could go for Jimenez over Edouard or any of these strikers. But that's the one area where I'm not sure on, and that's where I encourage all of you to comment down your selections for that second striker spot down in the comment section below. This team would be a 4-4-2. Salah would be the captain, but if you want to go a bit different, then I would go for Trent. Probably not Robertson, because there is the odd chance Tsimikas gets a game, and that would obviously dent your captaincy hopes there. I think Trent is less likely to be rotated, and probably the same can be applied when you compare him to Salah, but Salah for me has the highest ceiling, and I would go for him. So a 4-4-2, Harry Kane and Edouard, or any of these strikers that you pick, that would be your front two. Those four midfielders I said were Saka, Salah, Son and Bowen, and in defence, Ait-Nouri, Tierney, Trent and Robertson, with Ramsdale in goal. I think that's a pretty solid looking team. If you have more money, then you can improve this even further. But let me know which changes you would make. Now we're going to talk about the best wildcard team. Quite a lot of it is similar, but there will be some key differences which I'll highlight as we go along. Salah will be the most popular captain this week, and it's going to be a question of effective ownership and all this, but I wouldn't just captain him with the fear of missing out. I would only captain who you think is going to get the most points this week, and the way I see it, the Liverpool players with those fixtures, it has to be Salah and Trent. But there's also going to be some differentials you can think about, and on a free hit you could consider Cornet, even Diaz as a replacement for Jota. The Colombian could do very well there for Liverpool, and even Firmino up front if you have even more money to spend and you're not really too sure about Lacazette and also Jimenez. So there's plenty of options this week with all these doubles, and with Jota being injured, that opens everything up entirely and makes this a very interesting week. But even those Watford strikers, do not discount them in a double game week where they have some pretty decent fixtures. This should be very interesting, and let's see how everything pans out. Those who play the free hit, those who just have normal teams and are maybe taking massive hits, those that are just being cautious with their transfers, the triple captainers, whether they go for Salah or Trent or someone else. It's going to be very, very fascinating. And also the bench boost. There's so many things in play. But now let's talk about the wild card, and you can tell me what you think of this as well. Ramsdale features here once again with Robert Sanchez, and there's pretty much the same goalkeeper pairing that I showed in the best wildcard team for Game Week 25. I've also gone for Robertson and Trent. Now, one problem with this team is that you would have 4 outfield Arsenal and Liverpool players. That means you would be down to 10 men in Game Week 27, but you could move one of these players on, but it's not really ideal because Trent and Salah, you're probably not going to sell. Robertson, you could sell maybe to Laporte, and also with Saka, you could move him on to Coutinho, but then Arsenal could have a double as soon as Game Week 28, and they've got some great fixtures until the end of the season. So maybe on this wild card, you could avoid one of Robertson or Saka, but Trent and Salah, I would definitely have no matter what. But Sanchez and Ramsdale, I talked about this before, they complement each other so well, and when Ramsdale blanks, Sanchez has a fixture, and a pretty decent one at that, and also when Sanchez has a poor fixture, Ramsdale has some very, very good games on paper. So it's going to be very interesting. I think you could also go for Jose Sa and David De Gea, but I would lean more towards Jose Sa. And if you have enough money, Jose Sa and Ramsdale is also a very good goalkeeper combination, but Sanchez and Ramsdale would be enough. And whenever both of them do play, I would tend to favour Ramsdale and Arsenal's defence over Sanchez, but sometimes, exceptions can be made, especially when Ramsdale faces a very difficult opponent. But I think that would cover you until the end of the season. Robertson and Trent is probably the best defensive duo you can get right now, except for Cancelo and Laporte. But with that double in 26 and also some very good fixtures going forward, the blank, yes, is a bit of a problem, but you can still navigate that with a free hit or even just a free transfer or a hit. I don't think it's a big issue. And then we've gone for Tarkowski. That's 2 doubles in a row for Burnley. Now, you can see here a triple up in Burnley. I would be a bit hesitant about that, and I've shown Cornet in here. What I would probably do is go for Ramsey instead. So with this team, I would have 104.6 million. That's how much this team would cost. But if you had Ramsey instead of Cornet, it would cost 103.5 million. So you'd probably, in all likelihood, have plenty of money left in the bank. But if I'll be honest, I would rather have Ramsey long term. But if you want to attack these 2 doubles in 26 and 27, why not go for Cornet if you can afford it? That's the way I see it. And Nuri is here once again. You can always go for a Kilman, Cody, or another Wolves defender like Saiss, depending on your budget. And Cancelo has to be in it for me. If you're looking for a City defender, Cancelo's top of the list, and also for Manchester City in general. And then Laporte would be my second pick if you want to double up on the Citizens' defence. And you could also go for Laporte over Robertson. There's still Digne, who is still a decent option despite his blanks and Aston Villa's shaky defence. And there's plenty of options throughout that you can pick, like Tierney. But I would stick to the double up in Liverpool's defence. I think that has the most attacking upside, and they're just looking so good at the moment. As always, Saka's in here, and the double in 26, the potential one in 28. And also, he's been very good this season. He showed some very good form in December. I think he's definitely worth including. And then Salah, do we even need to talk about him? Just have him until the end of the season. He's the most reliable premium player, and also just any player in the entire game. And then I would go for Ramsey, but you can go for Corner if you have enough money. Heung-min Son, I would still go for as your kind of second premium. He's borderline premium, you could say, but good value for money. Spurs are a bit shaky, but Son can still do very well despite Spurs' struggles. And then we've gone for Bowen. I think, other than Salah, he is the kind of first name on my team sheet, at least in the midfield. So Salah, Trent, Bowen, and you could say Cancelo, maybe Ramsdale. Those 5 are kind of non-negotiables for me, and I would include them in pretty much every single best wildcard team unless something happens like a dip in form, injury, or something else. With the forwards, it's always a conundrum. I probably wouldn't go for Harry Kane because it also means you have to probably reduce the quality of the rest of your squad or maybe downgrade someone like Heung-min Son. I think this is probably the best value for money. Now, with Dennis, I will be honest, he's been very poor for the last 5-6 game weeks, but he could do very well in Double Gameweek 26, and you can move him on to Broja in Gameweek 27. So that's kind of the logic there with Dennis. Maybe you're booking in a transfer if you just don't trust him or Watford at all, which I completely understand. Then get Broja in and you're settled. I've gone for Edouard as well. Great fixtures until the end of the season, but he's going to be rotated from time to time, so maybe he's not the best pick either. If you have enough money, you can go for someone more nailed like Lacazette or even Jimenez. But with Lacazette, maybe that will block that third Arsenal spot if you're looking to get someone else, maybe Tierney in defence in Game Week 28 and beyond. So you've got to think about these things. Workhorse should be fine in Game Week 26. If he misses any game, it would be that Brighton game, but then a double in 27. So I would go for the Dutchman, but there's not really any standout strikers. I talk about this in every video. Unfortunately, I'm still waiting for some signs from the strikers. I think Harry Kane would be the ideal premium one, but I wouldn't go for him on a wild card, and I would rather spend the money in the midfield and defence. I think that's where the bulk of the points are going to be, just as they have been for the majority of this season. But let me know what you think of this best wildcard team and the best free hit team. Which one do you actually prefer? But different circumstances, different context. And with this wildcard, you also have to think about Game Week 27 and the many future doubles and blanks that we're going to have for the rest of the campaign. But thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Thank you to everyone who's already done so. You can also become a channel member by clicking the join button. And there's also a list of all the perks in the description below, as well as the Discord server. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM. So thank you to everyone who's already done so. As always, it's much appreciated. And there's going to be more UCL fantasy and FPL content coming your way. So good luck for Double Gameweek 26. It's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out. And if you are playing a chip, all the very best of luck. And as you know, I'm going to be playing the triple captaincy on Salah unless something happens in the next couple of days. There's going to be the normal deadline stream, and I'll probably put a poll out to see if you guys prefer the Friday night or the Saturday morning. So let me know what you think of that as well. Enjoy the football, take care, and I'll see you next time.